and I call the Honourable Member for Ryan via virtual presence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I am keen to commend the bill, the substantive bill before the House today. It has a lot of measures in it that will ensure women are treated equally in the workplace, free of harassment and sexual intimidation. It's an incredibly important bill. In my own life, as many other members know, I'm lucky to be surrounded by very strong and confident women in the workplace. Alison, who runs my office, and Georgia, and at home with my wife, Maddie, and my daughter, Isabel. But as the government considered its response to the Respect at Work report, some of the stories they told me about their treatment in previous workplaces was truly shocking and upsetting, and I'm sure other members, as this process has gone through the stages, have had similar experiences. So the legislative changes before us are important, they're necessary, and I hope, if I could present a succinct summary, I hope they will send a very clear message to men in the workplace who undertake this kind of inappropriate behaviour that your time is up. It won't be tolerated. This behaviour is unacceptable. It always has been. And these changes will go a long way to ensuring that workplace is free of harassment and sexual intimidation for women. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, there is another aspect of this bill that, in fact, wasn't recommended as part of the Jenkins report, but is in there, that I want to speak about today. Some of my other colleagues will cover off in greater detail the other measures of this bill, but I wanted to use the majority of my time to talk about the important provision in the bill to extend compassionate or bereavement leave to those couples who suffer a miscarriage. I wish I could be there in the chamber with you today, but you know, there's a lot of disappointments as part of COVID and border closures and all the rest of it for every Australian, and so my disappointment pales in comparison. But I would have wanted to give this speech to you in person in the House because it is such a passion of mine, and I don't want these changes to be that the Parliament will support today. I don't want these changes to be understated. It is pretty rare that this Parliament changes the Fairwork Act, and even rarer that this Parliament extends new leave provisions, but that is what we are doing for Australian couples today, extending them 2 days of compassionate or bereavement leave when they suffer a miscarriage. This particular change has been championed by the Pink Elephant Support Network, and I really want to pay testament to them, as the Minister did and as Minister Cash did in the Senate last night. Particularly at the Pink Elephant Support Network, I wanted to read the names into the Hansard of Samantha Payne, the co-founder and CEO, Sarah Jane Mahanis, the CEO, and Katrina Grushinsky from the board, for the incredible work that they do at the Pink Elephant Support Network, supporting women and couples who are going through loss through miscarriage. And together those three incredible strong women have created the Leave for Loss campaign, where they sought to champion the idea of additional leave being given to couples who were suffering miscarriage in the workplaces. And I have to say, the workplaces of Australia, the workplaces around our nation, have been incredible getting behind the Leave for Loss campaign. They have extended leave in some cases, very large companies, of up to 5 days directly to employees, and that was a large part of the initial success of the Leave for Loss campaign. But I'm also delighted that I got the chance to be part of the Leave for Loss campaign and to champion it within this House and within the government. and to ensure that bereavement or compassionate leave was extended to all couples who find themselves in this situation and all workplaces around the nation. We went through a process as we were talking to the various ministers about this particular change and what it entailed, of seeking feedback from the small business community around the nation, and they were overwhelmingly supportive. Over 70% of small businesses that we surveyed, and this was, during the stress of the pandemic and everything else. So at the time when they had a lot of things to worry about, including their own survival, over 70% of small businesses strongly or very supported the idea of extending additional leave entitlements to couples going through miscarriage. And so I want to thank those small businesses for their support. I want to thank Minister Porter and Minister Cash, the two Attorney Generals, during the period that this was under consideration, the construction of this bill. Both of them, without exception, have been incredibly receptive and incredibly diligent and dedicated to hearing from the pink elephants, hearing from people like myself and other couples around the nation who have been impacted by miscarriage, and taking those concerns on board and looking at how we might incorporate it into these Fair Work Act changes. And they're supported by incredibly diligent people in their office, like Jess and Callum, who have been there along the journey with us as well. So thank you to them. But I think one of the reasons why both Minister Cash and Minister Porter, and why all those small businesses around the nation were so supportive and keen to get behind this amendment, is because miscarriage is something that affects just so many couples and so many women around the nation. We reel off these statistics that 1 in 4 pregnancies end in loss. That's 283 women a day who are suffering a pregnancy loss, the vast majority of them for 12 weeks in the form of a miscarriage. And 74% of women who suffered a miscarriage felt unsupported. That is an absolute tragedy in our nation, and I hope that this new provision of extending the leave will go some way to rectifying that, because the stats, as much as we like to reel them off, are not the full story. You have to talk to people who have been through it. You have to have been through it yourself to truly understand the strain and grief that it puts so many women and so many couples under. It's no secret that my own family have been through miscarriage. A lot of women and couples who go through miscarriage go through multiple miscarriages, and it doesn't get easier. In fact, it gets remarkably harder with each and every occurrence that they go through. The indulgence of the House, I wanted to read a little bit of the words of my own wife when she was reflecting on miscarriage journey that we've been through. She said this: "I think it's really important because it's something people shouldn't be embarrassed about. I think it's the only kind of loss people don't talk about. If someone in your family dies, you don't pretend that you're okay. You let them know that you are grieving and that you're sad. And I think the more people talk about it, the less people feel they need to hide it, and the more sensitive people will be about asking whether or not you're planning a family, how it's going, and those kind of things." That was a little bit of her words about our story, and our story has driven me to be a champion of these particular changes. If I had my time again, and I've said this before in the House, my family would have taken more time to grieve our losses. Miscarriage. My wife was one of those who shouldered the burden and was back at work that very same day. Not because she didn't have a supportive boss. She had a very supportive boss, but she was back the same day because isn't that just what people do? And that this is a loss that normally isn't acknowledged. Well, that's got to stop. That's got to stop with these changes being supported by both the government and Labor. Of course, the leave that we're extending, the 2 days, not just to women who suffer miscarriage, but to couples. Of course, 2 days isn't enough. Not going to get over it in 2 days, but it's meant to send a very strong message to couples that this is a very real loss, early pregnancy loss. It is something that you have to take time to grieve, because it won't be better tomorrow or the day after, but take time now to grieve. It will be better with the passage of time. It's important that you talk about it as a couple, that you come together and take those 2 days to talk about what you've lost and you know, the hopes and dreams and what could have been that you've lost. That you take time to grieve as a workplace right, not something that has to be negotiated with the boss, not something which at a time when you're feeling a great deal of pain, both physical and mentally, that you have to walk down the hall to the boss and try and negotiate a leave entitlement, that you know that this is there for the taking for a reason, so that you can go through that grieving process together. And then in doing so, know that there's support, that you can reach out, that you should reach out to the Pink Elephants support network and be part of that community of so many couples who have gone through it, so many couples who are happy to share their experience with you, who are happy to support you and you know, perhaps at a time when you don't even feel like you want to talk to your closest family about what happened, and talk to those couples who have been through a very similar thing. This government has a very proud record of supporting Australian families, about protecting our kids, protecting them from exploitation, about supporting couples through the horrors of stillbirth, which we have done previously, and now with these new amendments around miscarriage. I really want to acknowledge that there is bipartisan support for this part of the bill, and thank Labor very much for their support. But it also doesn't diminish the fact that it's the government that has driven this change and that has brought it to this House for voting on, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so proud to be a member of a government that is supporting Australian families. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, with those remarks, I will simply say that I hope this change, this new leave entitlement, extending compassionate bereavement leave to those couples who suffer miscarriage, will go a long way to easing the pain of this very difficult time that so many couples in Australia go through. Thank you again to Pink Elephants Support Network for all the wonderful work that they do, but for driving this change within the community. Thank you to Minister Porter and Minister Cash for helping me drive the change within the government. This change is for my own family who have suffered the loss of miscarriage, for every family who has suffered the loss of miscarriage, for every couple and family in my electorate of Ryan, and for every couple and family in Australia who will go through this. We are here with you to support you. You mustn't go through these things alone, and I'm very proud to be part of the government that has brought it to this place to make it a reality. Thank you.